In this section, we're going to discuss competitive equilibrium. This is a concept that you will see multiple times in many of your microeconomics courses. So we're going to analyze the idea of competitive equilibrium within our supply and demand framework. And specifically, we're going to talk about firms that are price takers. So recall that our demand and supply functions can be written in terms of P. And what is a competitive equilibrium? Well, it's a specific quantity Q and a specific quantity P such that our supply and demand are equal. So graphically, we can visualize this. So we have our upward sloping supply curve and our downward sloping demand curve, and we have a point of intersection. So this is where the two equal each other, so this is where the quantity supplied equals the quantity demanded. And the price associated with this intersection point is called the market clearing price. At this price, no matter how many units you want to sell, they will be sold in the market, and no matter how many units you would like to buy, you have the ability to buy those units. So what about if we have a price that is slightly higher than this market clearing price? At a price slightly higher, we're going to have excess supply. This is because consumers will demand fewer units at a higher price, but producers will supply more units at this higher price. So this means that price will have to decline in order to clear the units that are still in the market. Conversely, if we have a price below the market clearing price, we're going to have excess demand and less supply. So in this case, with a decreased price, we're going to demand more, but the suppliers will only be willing to supply fewer goods. So the price will have to increase in order to decrease that demand for those units. So let's take a look at an example. So here we have a demand curve that is represented by 100 minus 20p, and a supply curve that is 20 plus 60p. So how do we calculate the competitive equilibrium? Our demand curve and our supply curve. So for competitive equilibrium, we want to set the quantities equally to each other. We don't want to set the price equal to each other, even though in this case it's fine, but the common format is we set the quantities equal to each other. So we want the quantity demanded equal to the quantity supplied, and then we simply solve for P. So P will equal 1 in this case. So once we have P, we'll call this P star for the competitive equilibrium, we can figure out what Q is. So note that we can sub in this price of 1 into either of the equations because it will spit out the same quantity. So let's just plug it into quantity demanded. And this will give us 80. So our equilibrium price and quantity are P equals 1 and Q equals 80.